And base. Well, everyone around the world. Yismael Asaf, Rahim Nitzal Badas El, V'Kem Rahim Yishpad. Ad Masai Tishkutu Avel, Neil Hashem, Yisu Salam. Shifted Dal Yasham, Van Ravash Hatzlikov. Papa Dal Be'ebyan, Yad Hashem Hatzilam. Yadu, Be'abino, B'Hashem Yishalachu, Yimertu, Chol Meid Be'ovet. And Yamarta, Yimatem, Uvnei Elyan Kulchem. Achen, Ba'adin Tamusum, Ba'achat Hasor Tipaylo. Kumalahim Shofta Olet, Yatasin Alcohol Hagonim. So, our last trapping. So, just to summarize, we started this activity. I just want to conclude this. So we have where it's a Torah prohibition. Where it is. So the Torah prohibition would be if it is something that is for the purpose to okay. Now, if it meets these four conditions, then it is a Torah prohibition. If not, it would be rabbinic. So the first thing is for a purpose. You want to make use of the thing itself. As in a Mishkan, why was the Tachash trapped? When they wanted to use its hide. So it's for a purpose. What happens if you're trapping it because you don't want it to do any harm? For instance, you're trapping a rabbit because it's eating up all your lettuce. You're trapping a deer because it's going into your garden. In that case, it is not for a purpose, it is to prevent harm. So this would not be a Torah prohibition, it would be rabbinic. Then we have something that's commonly trapped. So an example would be all of the livestock, things that are trapped because you want to make use of it. Things that are not commonly trapped would be, again, for a purpose. We're not speaking about If it's to prevent harm, there are a lot of things that we trap to prevent from harming us. But something that is commonly trapped would be the animals that are usually trapped for a purpose, and then those that are not commonly trapped would be like flies, eels, things of that sort that you normally don't trap. Even if someone has a purpose why they want to trap this fly, because they want to examine it or whatever it may be, it would be rabbinic because it's not something that's commonly trapped, even though you're doing it for a purpose, but this species is not something that's commonly trapped, so it would be rabbinic. Then number 3, able to flee. So that is healthy. What would be an example of something that's not able to flee?
I don't know.
Hmm?
It's probably
Something that is sick, old, frail,
oh,
can't run away.
never mind.
So that would be an example. So that would be rabbinic. Then we have something that's confined to a small area. What would be an example for that?
A dog.
Hmm?
A bedroom, a dog in the bedroom.
No, that's a large area.
That's what?
That's a large area. It's something that if you have to do a second effort to capture it, then that's considered a large area. In other words, if there were to be a squirrel in this room, and you confine it, would it be a Torah prohibition or a rabbinic prohibition?
Rabbinic,
Because
like it's already in an area and you have to make another effort to go
Okay.
out further.
you have to make another effort in order to capture it. So then it would be rabbinic. However, if it would be in a closet, then that's trapped. Can't be. It's there. You just have to, or in a cage, things of that sort. That would be confining it. So, in order to be a Torah prohibition, it has to be these 4 situations, and if not, it would be rabbinic. Because we are making differentiation between the Torah and rabbinic, there would also be a difference when the rabbis took away their prohibition. So let's take an example where you have something that's going to cause severe pain. For instance, bee. Let's say there's a bee. So if someone is allergic to bees and it could be fatal to them, that's a different category. Then we're not going to, even if it's a Torah prohibition, life comes first. But what happens if it's not going to be, it's just going to cause severe pain? So in that case, it would be bee is not commonly trapped. We're not capturing for a purpose. We just wanted to prevent it from biting, from stinging. So in that case, it is rabbinic. And in that case, the Rabbanan said that you could confine it, but it cannot be with a professional trap that is made for bees. You cannot put out a bee trap on Shabbos or Yontif in your sukkah. But what you could do, if the bee is there in the sukkah, you could take a cup and put the cup over the bee. That's not a normal way of trapping bees. It's not a bee trap. And the reason why you're allowed to do this would be because if it does bite, it could cause severe pain. If it's
And I thought we were allowed, like, if you had a mouth trap out, we're allowed
Yeah,
to leave it out.
if you put it in before
Shabbos, yeah.
before Shabbos and Sukkot, you put out the bee trap. then
Oh, you could?
You could do it, yes.
Oh, before-
You could put out, in other words, you can hang up, you have the special bee
For
trap, and
shots,
put in
okay.
the fish or something of that sort, you hang it up. So if you hang it up in your sukkah before Shabbos and Yontif, then it is permissible. Putting it out Shabbos and Yontif would be forbidden. What happens if it does not cause severe pain? So then, it is a mosquito. So what you could do is you could shoot it away, take it off, If it did get on the skin, it looks like it's going to get you, then in that case, you could take and remove it, not to kill it, but it's not, no reason to, not something that we are concerned that it might cause a disease. Again, if it is the time when you have the tsetse fly, you have the yellow mosquito that brings those type of disease, then that is something that one might even eliminate on Shabbos and Yom Tov as well, because this is something that could be fatal. So I think that's pretty. Mhm.
So can you actually, you can kill it even
If it's something that could actually, if it is a danger to life, you can actually kill it. So let's see what we have. So let's go through let's see what we have here. 242, setting a trap on Shabbos, that cannot be done. Closing a utensil that has flies inside and be trapping it, it would be a rabbinic prohibition. If you left a little open, then it would be permissible. Chasing fish from a river to a pool, that would be rabbinic, still would have to be captured again. Okay. Changing the water in an aquarium at 243. You can't trap the fish in order to change the water because you're trapping them. Can that be done? 244. Catching harmful animals, which are not poisonous, but they could harm someone. So then, this is what we spoke about, the putting a cup over a bee. $245, if a bird did enter the room and try to chase it out, if it becomes very cold inside the house, you're closing the window because you don't want to freeze. So then you may do so because your intention is not to catch it. Domestic animals in a large area, so they're domestic. So you could chase them to a large yard. These are domestic animals. 247, correct way to open and close a cage. Someone wants to open a cage on Shabbos in order to feed the animal. Ideally, you should make double doors for the cage. This is something that you actually walk into. So you have it's like it's more like a barn than a cage. So you enter the first door, and there's still an inner door. So by closing the first door, the animal is still trapped. You didn't do anything more than was there before. Bottom of 247 of the forbid to catch on Shabbos livestock, animals, or poultry who rebel against their owners. One who catches them violates the biblical prohibition of trapping, like one who traps a wild animal. Since they will not return to the cages at night, they rebelled. Releasing an animal from a cage is permissible. Okay. Now, It does say that if someone has like parakeet and you want to put something inside the cage, so what we try to do is not to trap it. Once we open it, closing the door again is considered a trapping it. So what one would do would be to block the opening with their body. So even if they opened the door of the cage, it's still considered closed because you are now blocking it. And then you put in the plate or whatever seeds, whatever else you want to do to feed the bird, take out the water, replace it. But the whole time, the cage is being blocked from the bird going out. So there was never a time that the bird was able to fly out. And because of that, when you close the door, now you are trapping it because the whole time it was confined because you blocked it with your body with the other hand. So not to leave the cage door open, and then do all the thing changing and then close it again. So let's try again. You have now you have our cage. So this would be open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, as I open the door, I'm going to block it either with my body, so the bird cannot get out to begin with. The door is open, and I'm going to now put the dish in or whatever else it is, since the whole time it is blocked. But then when I close the door, nothing changed because it was blocked to begin with. So either I'm able to do so with my hand, depending on what kind of cage it is, how big the door is. You would have to make something that some provision that while you're opening the door, the bird cannot escape, and therefore by closing the door again, you've not trapped it because it was never free to begin with. Okay. So those who have pets, walking a dog. Anyone have a dog? Okay, a place where there is no eruv. Can you walk your dog on Shabbos? Technically,
You can, but if you're holding the
Yes, yes.
leash,
okay.
or you cannot, but.
So what? Yeah. So
You
what?
don't- What was you?
Okay, so you answered it correctly. What our concern is when you're walking the dog with a leash, what you're doing is that you are carrying the leash. However, if the dog is carrying the other end, then you're not really carrying it, you're not doing it yourself. It's being two who are doing the same malacha. So if two people do a malacha that one person could do and two people are doing it, then it would be rabbinic, and under certain circumstances, it would be permissible. So let's take an example. Someone who has to sign in a hospital on Shabbos. So if it's a life-threatening situation, then you do whatever has to be done. If it could be postponed until after Shabbos, ask them that you're going to sign in after, then you ask for that. If that does not work, so then you would sign, but in an unusual way. So either if you're right-handed, you would sign with your left hand, or you could have two people together signing. So here you're not doing it yourself, you're doing it with two, so that would not be a total prohibition. That would be rabbinic. In this case, because of health, we're going to let two people do so. So now we have to walk the dog. Now we're going to have two who are going to be carrying the leash. The dog will be carrying it on one end, the person is carrying it on the other end. So what has to be if it's on the floor, putting it down, then picking it up again is making a malacha of taking it from its place of rest. So the leash can never go down to the floor. It has to be at least 3 handbreadths above the floor at all times. Then also the person has to carry the leash at its end. Because if you hold it in the middle, then the other part that's there is like you're taking that piece yourself. So it has to be held at the end, and there has to be taunt that the leash should not be dragging within 3 hand breadths, which is about 12 inches from the ground. It has to be always 12 inches off the ground. So it has to be taunt, and it has to. So it's not. I think one has to be very vigilant when you are doing that. Yes.
If you have like a chihuahua or
Oh,
a
dear.
small dog, like
So
is it just,
they have to begin with it so low.
yeah, that's.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Go very close to it and hold it this way. Okay, now,
So this is, not so pleasant, but like, so then the dog.
so you can't, Shabbos, you cannot, not on Shabbos. No. So, the next was, after the Tachash was captured, this is on page 249, which is the next halacha, which is called Shabbos. This is following. Now, in order to make the coverings for the Mishkan, you had the rams and the tachash, that special animal. So this would be whether it's done as a slaughtering with a knife or any other way, taking away the life of something that is living goes into this category. That would include, on page 250, take the life of an animal by any other means, strangulation, taking fish out of water, leaving it out so it cannot live even when returned to water, striking an animal and drawing blood, recording bleeding under the skin, even if the quantity of blood is minimal, causing a black and blue mark would also be included. So this would also include not to kill any living thing. Now, what about using an insect repellent? So there are 2 kinds. One would be actually killing the flies or the other rodents or creatures. So that cannot be done. But there is a repellent that prevents the insects from being in that area. That is permissible. We could also spread a liquid that actually pours on the body to prevent mosquitoes from coming close. Not to use a pesticide spray that kills the insects, even if your goal is to chase it away. So using it as a repellent to prevent the mosquitoes from biting you, that can be done. Page 251. This also.
So say like, you're gonna be in a certain area, and you can't carry there, you could leave the repellent there like before Shabbos and then spray on Shabbos.
Yes. Now, this would also include causing bleeding. So that cannot be done on Shabbos. And that would also include flossing. If one has gum that causes bleeding, so you cannot floss on Shabbos for someone who has bleeding gums. Taking a blood test. So again, if it's not mortal danger, page 251, then one should have the blood test after Shabbos, because one does want to use the blood to examine it, to make the test. If a person life is in danger, then whatever has to be done is done on Shabbos. causing additional bleeding, would also be taking off a scab, scratching, opening up a wound. All of this is a Torah prohibition. Removing a splinter. So you could remove the splinter. You could use even a sewing needle. I guess you would pour some alcohol on it to sterilize it. But it has to be such a splinter that you know that it will not cause bleeding. If it's certain that it's going to cause bleeding, then you have to wait until after Shabbos. On page 252, we have what's with the wasps, bees. So we say that you could, you cannot kill them because they're not life-threatening. You could trap them, as we said before, but not killing them. However, if there is an animal that is capable to kill a person, dog that has rabies, poisonous snake, scorpions, so then one could confine it, if that would be sufficient, or to kill it, if there is a chance that it will endanger someone's life. If it's not chasing anyone, then you want others to stay away. Page 253, animals that are dangerous, not life-threatening. So you cannot be killed on Shabbos. However, an animal which is standing in place and not about to attack a person may only be killed by apparently walking in no special intention of stepping on it on his way. This has to be something that's crawling on the ground. I can't see it stepping on something that's large. So so basically that would be like snakes and things of scorpions and things of that sort. Okay. So so that would be basically the rules with slaughtering.
Wait, so, I'm sorry. So if the snake is not life-threatening, it's still okay to kill it?
If you do it in an unusual way, you're right. It's not life-threatening now. Yeah, but they're dangerous. They will cause a person
Dangerous.
severe. Yes.
So this is totally a stupid question, like no doubt. When you walk on grass, again, assuming there's no heel, you're not making intent, whatever. When you're walking on grass, there's ants in grass, there's spiders in grass, there's bugs in grass. You're killing those bugs when you step on them.
Yes.
That's okay.
If you're not, you don't have to examine the place that you are walking before you walk there. You could walk normally. Your intention is not to kill them. So it's not something that's definitely going to happen.
If there's a choice of a pavement.
So then one should walk on the pavement. To avoid, you shouldn't be taking this in the life of any creature without a purpose. Because the only thing really here is not to cause any bruising, not to cause any bleeding. All of this would be included in this malacha. We'll move along. Next malacha really is not really relevant. Skinning. Taking off the skin of an animal. This was done as a part of the process. They took off their hides and the tachash. The malacha is taking off the skin of an animal that is dead. The Tzeidah is taking the parchment and splitting it in half. This again is not relevant to us. Now, the question that they have on page 256 is, what about removing the skin of a cooked chicken? So that's considered food. Doesn't go into this category at all. Since if the person is does not want to eat the skin, that's why they're removing it, so it should be done right before the time that they're going to eat, not to get into the malacha of borer. Borer is removing something. So it would be the same, we would consider the skin of a chicken the same as would be the peel of an orange. When could you peel an orange? When you're ready to eat it. When could you peel the chicken? When you're ready to eat it. So we consider it that it would be permissible if not taking that what you don't want from what you want, because it's considered like the shell, the peel of the chicken, and therefore you are permitted to remove it, but right when you're ready to eat. Any questions? Okay. Now, the next step was tanning, ma'abed. Abed means working with a hide and making it into a useful item. So what was the hide was taken off in order to make it as a covering for the Mishkan. So there were different steps taken to make it into a useful item. It would be using to put a lot of pressure on it, which is stepping on the hide to harden it. Then it also has to be pliable, softening it. Then it was stretched and straightened. All of these are part of the tanning process. Page 258. Rabbinic prohibition that comes from tanning are now the part of the tanning was also, which they don't bring here, is using different chemicals and items, specifically that would be like salt, that would preserve the skin. So this would be something that is meant to change the composition of the hide. And rabbinically, this also is changed over into food. So you have salting of foods in order to soften it or harden it or to reduce its bitterness. Can anyone give me any examples of that? Can I get an example where the salt makes a change in the food item?
Ice cream.
Mhm.
So
Celery, what happens when you have celery? When you put salt on celery, what happens?
the water comes out.
The liquid comes out, so you're removing the liquid. What happens if what else would be something that you're working with food and you're doing something to change its composition?
Ice cream. You make it.
I can go into another category. We're speaking about doing something that is similar to tanning. Tanning is they would put chemicals on the hide to change it from being a hide like this. Normally, it would spoil. It would not become the hide that you're able to. It would not become into a leather that's pliable or able to be used. You have to use chemicals on it. In this case, they used to use salt with other different items that would make a change in the hide itself, either hardening it, softening it, all of these things. So this is when we're speaking about the food. What kind of foods are changed by putting them into different spices, where the food item itself changes?
Jerky,
It's here.
beef,
Beef, what do you do?
like meat.
Making jerky, yes, but putting salting it, and it becomes hardened, that it does not spoil. You don't have to keep it refrigerated by the fact that you've with the salt is going to preserve the meat. So doing that on Shabbos, you could salt the meat for taste, but not to make that change. What else is changed by different spices? Something that we call, anyone? Pickling. Pickles, sauerkraut, all of these things are changed by the spices or we have the dill pickles, so they put a dill, then you have the salt that is going to preserve it, make the change in it. So from a cucumber, it turns into a pickle. So doing that on Shabbos itself cannot be done. You could eat the pickles, but you can't make the pickles. But we're going to continue this after our. This, I guess, is more relevant to us. If you take out a pickle from the pickle jar, could you put it back to the pickle juice?
Yeah,
Because
you're not changing it.
it matters how fresh it is. If it's just the beginning of the process, and it didn't really become yet a pickle, it's still like half treated, then you can't put it back because it's going to change the process. But if it's completely pickled, then putting it back in is not making any change, and then we're permissible.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're starting the Pesach. We'll be having Pesach classes starting from tomorrow. It's time.
Yeah, take one. Anything else? Well, then we're just gonna do it, but that one's. Let's not go down, let's go over that, and we didn't care. That's not like we have you every day. So if you